Tony stared at the plate in front of him. The dim lighting of the dining room cast shadows on the overcooked chicken, making it look even less appetizing. He could feel the weight of the evening pressing down on him. He pushed the overcooked chicken around with his fork, trying to muster the courage to take another bite. The texture was all wrong, and the taste was even worse. He wondered how something so simple could go so terribly wrong. It was dry. It was bland. It was a disaster. Tony couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. He had been looking forward to this dinner, hoping to impress his girlfriend's parents. Instead, he was faced with a culinary catastrophe. His girlfriend's parents were supposed to be master chefs. At least that's what his girlfriend Sophia always told him. She had regaled him with stories of their culinary prowess, of the gourmet meals they would whip up effortlessly. At least that's what his girlfriend Sophia always told him. She had painted a picture of a family that lived and breathed food, where every meal was a celebration of flavors and textures. He looked across the table, trying to gauge the reactions of everyone else. Were they as disappointed as he was? Or were they just better at hiding it? The room was filled with the sounds of clinking cutlery and polite conversation. Sophia's dad was talking about his stamp collection. Again, Tony had heard this story at least 3 times before, but he nodded along, trying to appear interested. He didn't want to seem rude, especially not tonight. Sophia's mum was nodding politely, her smile never wavering. She seemed genuinely interested in her husband's stories, even if they were repetitive. Tony admired her patience and wondered if he could ever be that composed. She had a smear of tomato sauce on her chin. Tony debated whether to point it out, but decided against it. The last thing he wanted was to embarrass her. Instead, he focused on his plate, trying to make the best of the situation.
So, Tony, what do you think of the chicken? My secret recipe. Sophia's dad beamed with pride, clearly expecting a compliment. Tony felt a lump form in his throat. How could he be honest without offending him?
It's different, Tony managed to say, forcing a smile. He hoped his response was vague enough to be taken as a compliment, but not so enthusiastic that it would encourage more of the same dish in the future.
The rest of dinner was a blur. Conversations flowed around him, but Tony felt disconnected, lost in his own thoughts. He kept glancing at the clock, counting down the minutes until he could leave. Tony couldn't wait to get out of there. He felt trapped, like he was suffocating under the weight of expectations and the pressure to impress. He longed for the comfort of his own home, where he could relax and be himself. He dreamed of pizza. Juicy, cheesy, perfect pizza. The kind that melted in your mouth and made you forget all your worries. As he sat there, pushing the dry chicken around his plate, he made a silent promise to himself. Next time he would suggest ordering in. Back at his apartment, Tony flopped onto his bed. He was exhausted. He was also starving. He picked up his phone and dialed the local pizzeria.
1 large pepperoni, extra cheese, please.
As he waited for his pizza, he closed his eyes. He wished for a world where pizza was the only food. He wished it with all his might. The smell of baking bread filled the air. Tony opened his eyes. He was in his bed, but something was different. He could smell pizza, lots of it. He got out of bed and went to the window. The street below was bustling with people, but instead of carrying briefcases and shopping bags, everyone was holding pizza boxes. Pizza delivery trucks zoomed down the street. Their horns blared out a symphony of cheesy melodies. Tony raced outside. He had to see this. He stopped at a hot dog stand. Except it wasn't a hot dog stand anymore. It was a pizza stand.
Coming right up!
Tony looked around. A group of kids were playing frisbee with a giant pepperoni slice. A dog was chasing a rolling pizza dough. The world had gone completely pizza crazy.
A cheesy commute. Even the subway smells like pepperoni. Tony decided to take the subway. He had heard rumors about the city's obsession with pizza, but he needed to see it for himself. He wanted to see if the rest of the city was the same. Was it true that pizza had taken over every corner of the metropolis? He descended into the subway station, the aroma of pepperoni and melted cheese growing stronger with each step. The smell of pizza was even stronger down here. It was as if the entire underground system had been transformed into a giant pizzeria. He got on the train. Everyone was eating pizza. Some had slices, others had whole pies balanced on their laps. "Excuse me?" Tony said to the man sitting next to him, who was devouring a slice with extra cheese. "Is pizza the only food they serve here?" Tony asked, genuinely curious.
The man looked up from his slice. He had tomato sauce on his cheek, a testament to his enthusiastic eating.
"What else would there be?" he asked, as if the question itself was absurd. "Pizza is life here." Tony looked out the window as the train sped through the tunnels. He saw billboards advertising new pizza flavors, and even a pizza-themed fashion line. It was clear that pizza wasn't just food here, it was a way of life. From pizza-scented candles to pizza-patterned clothing, the city had embraced its cheesy identity. Tony couldn't help but smile. He had always loved pizza, but this was something else entirely. It was a pizza paradise. As he took a bite of his own slice, he realized that maybe, just maybe, he could get used to this. The train arrived at his stop and Tony stepped off, the smell of pepperoni still lingering in the air. He knew one thing for sure: this city was unlike any other. As he ascended the stairs back to the surface, he felt a sense of excitement. There was so much more to explore, and he couldn't wait to see what other pizza-themed surprises the city had in store. He was holding a giant stack of pizza boxes, each one teetering precariously as he walked through the park. A man with a long white beard sat down next to him, his eyes twinkling with a mysterious glint. He sat down on a bench in Central Park, the sun casting dappled shadows through the leaves above. He was starting to get a little sick of pizza, the smell of cheese and tomato sauce lingering in the air. He even saw a pizza museum, a quirky place dedicated to all things pizza, with exhibits ranging from ancient pizza ovens to modern-day pizza art. He saw pizza shops, pizza stands, and pizza restaurants, each one more inviting than the last, with the aroma of freshly baked dough wafting through the streets. Tony spent the day wandering around, exploring the urban environment and taking in the sights and sounds of the bustling city. "The pizza man cometh." A strange encounter with a pizza-obsessed stranger who seemed to appear out of nowhere.
"You look hungry," the man said, his voice warm and inviting. "Want a slice?"
Tony politely refused, shaking his head with a small smile.
"Don't you like pizza?" the man asked, looking genuinely surprised, as if he couldn't fathom someone not loving pizza.
"It's not that," Tony said, trying to explain. "It's just, I don't know, I'm kind of craving something else, something different."
The old man's eyes widened as if Tony had just uttered something completely unheard of.
"Something else? Like what?" he asked, his curiosity piqued.
Tony thought for a moment, considering his options. "Like a cheeseburger," he said, the words feeling almost foreign in the pizza-saturated air.
The old man gasped, his expression one of utter shock and disbelief.
"A cheeseburger? What's a cheeseburger?" he asked, his voice tinged with genuine confusion, as if the concept was completely alien to him.
Tony chuckled softly. "It's a sandwich with a beef patty, cheese, lettuce, tomato, and sometimes pickles and onions," he explained, trying to paint a picture with his words.
The old man looked intrigued, his eyes lighting up with interest. "That sounds interesting," he said slowly, as if tasting the words.
Tony smiled, glad to have piqued the man's interest. "Yeah, it's pretty good," he said. "Maybe you should try it sometime."
The old man nodded thoughtfully, as if considering the idea. "Maybe I will," he said, a small smile playing on his lips.
They sat there for a while, chatting about different foods and their favorite meals, the conversation flowing easily between them.
As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park, Tony realized that this strange encounter had turned into a pleasant and memorable experience.
He waved goodbye to the old man, feeling a sense of contentment as he walked away.
Sometimes the most unexpected encounters can lead to the most delightful conversations and new perspectives.
Cravings and crumbs. Tony starts to miss his mom's lasagna. That night, Tony went to bed hungry. He couldn't stop thinking about cheeseburgers and tacos and pasta. He missed his mom's lasagna. He even missed his girlfriend's dad's dry chicken. He closed his eyes. He wished he could have just one bite of something, anything that wasn't pizza. The grass is always greener, or is it just covered in mozzarella? The next day, I woke up with a plan. I was going to find a way to reverse my wish. I walked for hours, looking for someone, anyone, who remembered a world without pizza. I asked a group of teenagers hanging out on a street corner. They just laughed at me. I asked a police officer directing traffic. The officer handed me a slice of pizza. Dreaming of donuts. In his sleep, I see a world beyond pizza. Exhausted and defeated, I fell asleep on a bench in the park. I dreamed of food, but it wasn't pizza. I dreamed of juicy hamburgers piled high with toppings. I dreamed of steaming bowls of pasta coated in rich tomato sauce. I even dreamed of my girlfriend's dad's dry chicken, and it looked delicious. A slice of reality. I realized the value of variety. When I woke up, I felt different. I realized I had been foolish. I had taken food for granted. I had wished for a world where only pizza existed, and now I was trapped in it. I missed the variety. I missed the flavors. I missed the choice. I looked around at the pizza-filled world around me. I knew what I had to do. I had to find a way to break the curse.